lawful solutions for Moors, Blackamoors, Moorish Americans, Black Indians, African Americans, Moorish subjects, and all other naturalized or colonized colored people.
Peace and welcome. I'm Amir Hassan El, Vice Prime Minister of the Empire of Morocco and the Wazir of Elodium Moorish Peridium of New Mecca, an internal state of the empire that shares geographical borders with the present-day state of Oregon. Today's discussion is focused on structure, law, and legislative responsibility. The strength of any sovereign government rests on the discipline of its legislative branch, where laws are debated, refined, and enacted in accordance with constitutional order and treaty obligations. It's my honor to welcome the Speaker of the House of Abdelaziz, Makara El. Speaker, thank you for joining us for the discussion on legislative vision, constitutional framework, and governance priorities of the Empire of Morocco.
Thank you very much, Wazir Amir. I am pleased to be here. It's just a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. This is our first interview, and hopefully there'll be more in the future. But I want our audience to get to know a little bit more about the speaker and the legislative branch of the Empire of Morocco government. Can you tell me how the legislative branch is constructed?
The legislative branch of the Empire of Morocco is constructed of just women. It's a all-female legislative body.
Okay. So you don't have any men in the branch at all at this time, but are men allowed to work for the legislature?
Yes. There will be positions, not necessarily in the legislature, but supporting the legislature, such
Okay.
as sergeant at arms or positions such as those we have yet to enact.
Okay. That's unique to have a legislature composed of only women. I think that's very unique.
It was done to offset the Sultan only being a male authority. Women are not allowed to become sultan, although they are allowed to become a wazir of a state, but they're not allowed to become a sultan. So to balance that equilibrium, we had the legislative body of being all female.
Okay.
And generally speaking, it's a woman who's always in charge of the house, right?
Yeah, they make the rules and the males are the
Mhm.
enforcers. Okay, great. So tell me, that is also in each internal state. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is
Okay.
correct. Also in the internal states.
Okay, so what are the speakers called in the internal states?
They are called Seyrahas.
Okay, Seyayraha. And what are the other members called of the legislature?
They are also Seyrahas. They will be the Dalil Aziz House members.
Okay, the House members. Okay. Um, let's see. So we have Seyayraha are the speakers of the House, and Dale Aziz are the members of the House.
Yes, and
Okay.
they are all female. Yes.
Okay. Now, how are bills turned into laws in the House?
How are bills turned into the House? Legislation within the empire follows a structured constitutional process. Bills are submitted first to the Prime Minister, who introduces that bill to the Wazir Regional Council, or the WRC, which consists of the wazirs of each internal state, or they get a bill, or they can be submitted a bill from the House members. The bills are discussed, they're reviewed, and then they're voted on by the wazirs. And once they're voted on and they have agreed to forward it to the House does the same thing. They discuss it, review it, and vote on it unless there's something that they're not in agreement with. They will notify the Wazir Council or the Prime Minister of what they are not in agreement with, and it goes back to the WRC for further discussion, review, and voting on. Then it is returned, if we can reach an agreement, it's returned to the House, and then it is passed by the House. Once it's passed by the House, it is then sent to the Prime Minister as passed by the House, of which the Prime Minister sends it to the Sultan, who ratifies it. It then becomes Moroccan law and is then disseminated to all the Moroccan internal states.
Okay. Very fluid system, sounds like. Okay. Let me ask you this. As the Speaker of the legislative branch of the Empire of Morocco, what is your agenda?
Well, my agenda, or our agenda as the House, is centered on constitutional integrity, institutional stability, and the rule of law. The legislative branch, we exist to deliberate, refine, and enact laws that align with the Constitution of the Empire of Morocco and the treaty framework that is the foundation of our sovereignty. Our immediate priorities are the rule of law, which includes strengthening legal protections for Moroccan nationals, reinforcing the administrative clarity across the internal Moroccan states, and ensuring that enacted laws reflect both historical legitimacy and contemporary international standards. The rule of law consists of treaties, Moroccan law, and international law that protect our people from the injustices of colonization and to raise our people up to a level of obeying and maintaining good governance that gives back to the Moroccan people. Ultimately, the authority of the legislature, though, rests on the constitutional order, the consent of the governed, and the ability to translate public will into clear, enforceable law.
Speaker, how do you use the rule of law to protect the Moroccan nationals?
The rule of law, in itself, law, we would create laws that protect our nationals. We also rely on international law as well as to treaties to protect our nationals. Those are all valid, recognized bodies or pieces of law. So we would use the law, and that would be as a rule of law. Rule of law means you're practicing law in your government capacity.
Okay. Thank you. What are your strategies for gaining recognition from the Moroccan people within the territory?
Recognition begins with competence and integrity. The most effective path to public confidence is demonstrating that our institutions operate lawfully, transparently, and responsibly. Our strategy is a collective effort, knowing recognition begins with Moroccans who have understood we had to go home to our mother country to affect positive change. Change first within ourselves to grow into an understanding what it means to be a government official, not as an opportunity to pilfer or cheat or corrupt, but to uplift our people by becoming the example that we expect from a government official. Recognizing also it takes willingness to give up the distractions, to pick up and digest the Moroccan treaties, which are the highest law of the land. And we emphasize education, starting with the impact study sessions on YouTube, which focus on constitutional literacy and public service ethics. Through these studies, initiatives and public forums now and in the future in constructed outreach, we encourage nationals to understand the Constitution, the Moroccan treaty history, and the responsibilities that accompany public office. We Moors will follow the rules of law. We are conscious of the truth of law and history go hand in hand. And we are tired of this hamster wheel that manifests very little in the way of upliftment for our people. And if we are willing to work hard and become examples of integrity, I'm positive that we can build something even greater than anything we have experienced, past or present. Our strategy is not built on just rhetoric, but on institutional maturity, developing leaders who understand legal standards, who act with integrity, and serve the people with a discipline. Recognition grows when governance proves itself reliable and principled.
Okay, thank you. You had mentioned, the question had mentioned for the people to recognize the government, recognition. So that means to me that they recognize the government of the Empire of Morocco as the legitimate government. So they have institutions within that government that they recognize.
Mhm.
How is it that we get the people? When I mean people, I'm not only talking about nationals, but I'm talking about what is considered African American Black people, to come and recognize that this is the way that we should go for salvation, maybe is hopefully it's not too strong of a word.
No, 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 no. That's not too strong. And I understand the question. Thank you. Uh, it's not a one size fits all. It's not a blanket process, but you have to have that internal unsatisfactory, that you're not happy with your condition or the external conditions around you, and you want something better for yourself. If you are complacent, if you are satisfied in your current position, there's no motive within yourself to look for a solution or even to be part of that solution. The thing we're doing right now with the study sessions and all of the media and all of the things that we're involved in, putting the word out there and giving the information through educational means, has to reach those who are looking for a better way. Whether you're Black, Moorish American, colored, Negro, Indian, Hebrew, whatever you call yourself or identify as, if you are not unhappy or dissatisfied with your conditions and don't see them getting any better with this current political jurisdiction that you're in, that has to come first. It has to be something within that person that wants better for themselves and their family and their people. Uh, we can do not, the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of like that. We can lead you to the water, but we can't make you drink it. So it has to be the dissatisfaction, the motivation within yourself to get up. And as I keep saying, if you want change, you have to be part of that change. You cannot sit down and complain about your situation and the surroundings happening around you, but you don't want to get up and be part of making a difference.
Okay. Again, I'm going to be the devil's advocate here and ask the question is why, as a African American, Black person, so on and so forth, why should they feel that the Empire of Morocco is that salvation? What is it that the Empire of Morocco offers?
Okay.
That question is on the table.
What the empire offers is freedom. It's freedom from the jurisdiction of the United States and having your own government for the people, of the people, by the people, that has the interests of Moroccans who know themselves as Negroes, Blacks, African American, and coloreds. They are really Moroccans, but they have to take the time to learn and study and find out how they got into the position they're in and recognize that those names that we're called, which change for us and no other people, they don't ground us in sovereignty of any kind. They don't tie us to any landmass, and they don't ground us to anything. We remain, no matter what we call ourselves, we remain in the jurisdiction of the United States. And as long as we're in the jurisdiction of the United States, we are subject to their abuses or anything else that they decide they want to create laws or things relating to us in our situation. So it's better, it's if you want that freedom, you need to go home to your mother country. So that's what the Empire of Morocco offers them. Not only that, it will give them a better chance to be prosperous. They won't have to rely on the empty promises of foreigners, but they can actually be a part of creating those situations that empower our people.
Okay. Um, the people who aren't familiar with this movement, this government, you had mentioned that they have to learn who they are, basically. What avenues and venues do you have as a country set up for those who may be interested in learning more? What what sources do you have? Or,
Well, we do have the impact study sessions, and the impact study sessions is a beautiful program. It's a beautiful educational platform because it basically takes you from the very beginning to understand what happened to us as a people. How did we get in this position that we're in? And it takes you through that, and you begin to understand what happened. You understand the processes, how they were able to do what they did to naturalize us, and the treaties that allowed that to happen, and why it was allowed to happen because of the negligence on our part, because we didn't know we were Moroccans. So we kept calling ourselves everything but Moroccan. And so, and in essence, it's like you turn your back on your family, and or you have amnesia and you don't realize who you are or who your family is. So that's what would benefit the people who are trying to come back home and why they should come back home.
okay. Where can a person find this information at? You said Impact Study Session. Is that on
Yes,
YouTube or
yes, that's
some
on you.
other source?
They can just type in, go to YouTube and type in Impact Study Sessions, and you'll see our flag.
Okay. Are there any other resources such as maybe a website?
Yes, yes. The website is Wazir Regional Council.com.
Okay. Um, Speaker, can you tell me what is your vision for the future of the Empire of Morocco?
That we continue to grow, that more and more of our people realize the truth of who they are and what has happened to us and want to be part of the solution. And I do see us succeeding. I see us growing. I see us changing ourselves and ultimately changing the world, because that's what really is at stake here.
Okay. Thank you. Speaker, can you tell me what is your vision for the future of the Empire of Morocco?
That that we continue to take on the territories by Uti Pasadeta's jurisdiction, that we grow our own communities, that we start our own businesses, that we build affordable housing for our people, that we start our own schools to educate our people to the truth of who they are and our history, to become industrious, also to interact with other nations in this decolonization effort, as well as commercially, diplomatically, for our survival and for everyone's survival, so that we can stop the war machines and people can start really, really enjoying their lives in peace. That is the things that my vision is seeing for the future as we move forward, because we are not in this, again, for personal gain. We are in this to change the world.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Can you explain the specific constitutional or legislative mechanisms by which this body claims sovereignty and how it translates historical inheritance into present-day legal authority?
The empire's sovereignty is grounded in three interrelated foundations. First, the Constitution of the Empire of Morocco establishes the structure of government, which is the executive, legislative, and judicial. And it defines the scope of authority exercised within those branches and declares self-determination and sovereign independence. Second, the historical treaties, including the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1787 and 1836, the 1880 Treaty of Madrid, and the 1906 General Act of Algeciras, provide an international legal context in which Moroccan sovereignty has been historically acknowledged. Third, the Charter of the United Nations has mandated an end to colonization, and the Constitution for the Empire of Morocco integrates principles of international law, including sovereign independence, territorial integrity, and lawful jurisdiction, into its governing framework. Historical inheritance forms identity. Constitutional ratification establishes present-day authority. It is through enacted constitutional order, and sovereignty operates in practical governance.
Speaker, can you tell me what are the top three legislative priorities for this revived empire?
Our first priority is reinforcing the rule of law, ensuring that Moroccan officials and nationals can exercise their lawful rights and duties free from domestic and foreign corruption or administrative ambiguity in this great effort of decolonization. Second, we aim to enact legislation reforms in line with our sovereign independence, territorial integrity, and equitable economic development to mandate and manifest the enforcement of the triple principle of the Act of Algeciras, which are the sovereignty and independence of His Majesty the Sultan, the integrity of his domains, and the economic liberty without any inequality. Third, we are committed to responsible stewardship of our national resources and long-term prosperity, including environmental stability and sustainable development policies that benefit all persons within our jurisdiction.
Okay.
First, our priority is reinforcing the rule of law, ensuring that Moroccan officials and nationals can exercise their lawful rights and duties free from domestic and foreign corruption or administrative ambiguity in this great effort of decolonization. Second, we aim to enact legislative reforms in line with our sovereign independence, our territorial integrity, and equitable economic development to mandate and manifest the enforcement of the triple principle of the Act of Algeciras, the sovereignty and independence of His Majesty the Sultan, the integrity of his domains, and economic liberty without any inequality. Third, we are committed to responsible stewardship of national resources and long-term prosperity, including environmental stability and sustainable development policies that benefit all people within our jurisdiction.
Okay, great. This triple principle, can you go into a little bit more in depth and what it means? What is this sovereignty and independence of His Majesty the Sultan? What does that mean?
That means the opposite of colonialism. That they are sovereign, that sovereignty rests in the state. So the Sultan is the head of the state, the Empire of Morocco, and is sovereign. We are sovereign above. Our sovereignty is higher than the sovereignty of the United States, because the United States signed treaties with the Empire of Morocco and recognized that they are in the dominions of the Empire of Morocco, and that those states, once they sign those treaties, now belong to the Sultan of Morocco, and that is an example of sovereignty.
Okay. So the United States is came under, I guess you said, the protections of the Empire of Morocco, and that was when it first was getting established.
That was in 1787 when the treaty was signed between the Sultan of Morocco and the United States.
Okay, because this is probably something new to a lot of people to hear that the Empire of Morocco had sovereignty over the United States, which is good to know. You know, a lot of people who are not familiar with the relationship between the Empire of Morocco and the United States. It'd be very good to know. Integrity of domains. Can you go into a little more detail about what's that mean?
Integrity of domains. That's sort of like uti possidetis juris, when I had mentioned that previously. That's an agreement, an international agreement that in this process of decolonization, that when you are, or the indigenous people decide that they want to stand up and claim their independence and self-determination, that to avoid any squabbling or interfighting between the people that want to rise up as far as claiming territory, that it was agreed they would claim the current geographical boundaries of the colonized territory as their territory. They couldn't, claim like Dimty. Dimty could claim Texas boundaries, but we couldn't claim New York, Oklahoma, etc. So under the uti possidetis juris agreement, you could claim the territory that is currently dominated or under the colonial boundaries.
Okay. You mentioned Dempty. What's Dempty?
Dimty is short for Diadementis Alorum Morocco Prias Texas, DIMPT. That's the acronym. And what it means is the territories or the lands belonging, the dominions belonging to Morocco prior to Texas.
Okay, so Dempty is an internal state of the
Yes,
empire.
it is an internal state of the empire, yes.
Okay, and you guys share boundaries at this time with state of
Texas.
Texas.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
jurisdiction. Well, we each have our own jurisdiction, but
Okay.
within the same territory.
Within the same territory. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. My next question is, Speaker, are you drafting laws focused on cultural reclamation, reparations, diplomatic recognition, or something else entirely?
Our legislative focus is primarily influential. Cultural identity is reclaimed and affirmed through Moroccan reparation. I'm sorry, I messed up. Our legislative focus is primarily influential. Cultural identity is reclaimed and affirmed through Moroccan repatriation and lawful nationality. Questions of repatriations or diplomatic recognition are matters addressed through appropriate legal and diplomatic channels consistent with international law, such as the International Court of Justice, better known as the ICJ. The legislature's role is to ensure that any such efforts proceed through lawful and structured mechanisms. The empire's recognition is evidenced by the treaties and the signatory powers of those treaties. And diplomatic recognition is automatically defined for the modern internal Moroccan states who come under the umbrella of the Moroccan Empire. At present, our focus is strengthening governance capacity, ensuring the empire's institutions function effectively, transparently, and within constitutional bounds.
Speaker, does the Empire of Morocco operate under a restored version of an ancient charter, or have you drafted a new constitution?
The empire operates under a modern constitution that has never existed before in history. And it was drafted to reflect both the historical continuity and contemporary international legal standards, drawing from historic Moroccan sovereignty and treaties. This constitution was necessary as a reform to establish a structured, contemporary framework aligned with the current principles of international law and democratic design. And if you will, I would like to read the preamble of our Constitution, which articulates this mission.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. We, the Moroccan nationals, solemnly proclaim our attachment to the preemptory rights of the Moroccan territories throughout the Empire of Morocco. We, the Moorish people of the land, declare our self-determination and the complete emergence of our sovereign and independent Moorish Empire, recalling that the Empire State of Morocco recognized the European states by treaty relations, and in like manner, the European states recognize themselves as being states of the Sultan of Morocco. We, the Moors, vow to take our place among the affairs of modern states in harmony with the general rule of international law. Convinced that the Moorish state government has always been inspired by the interest attaching itself to the reign of order, peace, and prosperity in Morocco. We pledge our allegiance and provincial states to come under the original jurisdiction of this modern Moorish constitution as an international act to govern our ancient lands as one people and one state. We declare that the territorial and personal jurisdiction of the Moors shall be protected in good faith by the provisions of Moroccan treaties, laws, and regulations while cohabitating peacefully with other foreign states. We recognize that the attainment thereof can only be effected by the introduction of reforms based upon the triple principle of the sovereign independence of His Majesty the Sultan, the integrity of his domains, and economic liberty without any inequality, as enshrined in the International Conference of the 1906 General Act of Algeciras. Moreover, His Sharif and Majesty and the Moorish state government herein reclaim the uti possidetis, territorial land, air, and sea rights as erga omnes obligations throughout the Moorish Empire. We shall enjoy an autonomous political jurisdiction with a governmental institution founded by a democratic form of liberty, equality, and just protections for our economic and social development henceforth. For these reasons, we, the indigenous Moroccans of the furthest west of the Maghreb Empire, hereby recognize the full powers of His Majesty the Sultan. And in like manner, His Majesty the Sultan recognizes the Moroccan nationality of the Moors and reinstates the administration of the Moorish government and the competent consular court judges throughout the Empire of Morocco. May the sovereign authority of the Moorish government intervene against bad actors and help bring economic, social, and police protections for all people in need. May the fez and the beret of the Moors symbolize a trusted partnership for the Secretary General of the United Nations, whereas the Moors may be humanity's last hope of peace.
Okay. That was very interesting. Thank you for your answer. That had a lot of information. So let's break that down. One thing I really noticed about is the triple principle again being brought up in your answer. And we went through the independence and integrity of domain. The third principle is so the third principle is economic liberty without any inequality. Can you explain what that means?
That means we have the right to, as the sovereigns, to enforce tax collection. We have the right to charge for utilities, to commerce, to create businesses, to do trade internationally, et cetera, et cetera. That's the economic liberty without any inequality.
Okay. You had mentioned earlier in your answer that the Moors are attached to the reign of order, peace, and prosperity in Morocco. Can you explain a little more about what you mean by that?
Well, when it says convinced that the Moorish state government has always been inspired by attaching itself to the reign of order, peace, and prosperity in Morocco, first of all, you cannot have peace if you have war, or you can't have order without peace, and you can't have prosperity without order and peace. So order would be getting people to obey the laws. Other countries don't have, for instance, when we look at the United States and all of the issues that the United States has internally with the killings and the guns and the violence and the drugs and all of that, that is not order, that is chaos. We don't want our government to function in such a manner where our people exist in a sphere of chaos. So we want order and peace to be prosperous. You have to have order and peace to be prosperous. That's why I don't like to keep talking about the United States, but they are such a good example. But I don't like to keep interjecting them into this conversation. But we want to have order and peace where our people are not worried about when they're driving to work and from work and what could happen to them, or they have their children abducted or molested, and things like those. Those are in the realm of chaos, not in the realm of order.
Okay. Speaker, you had mentioned in your when you talked about the preamble that the Moors were convinced that the Moorish state government has always been inspired by their interests attaching itself to the reign of order, peace, and prosperity in Morocco. Can you expand on that and what you meant?
Yes, order is necessary in order to have peace, and order and peace are necessary to have the prosperity. And order is the opposite of chaos. When you look at what's happening globally in the world, with the wars and all of the issues that are going on, uh, with the degradation of people, with the uh, level of living that people are forced to live under, we want to turn that around. We want to change that. And when we talk about the reign of order, we have to push out the chaos and bring in the reign of order so that they're not occupying the same space and time. So once we get rid of the chaos, we can have the order, and that will bring about the peace and the prosperity in Morocco.
Okay. So you're talking about maybe a utopian society where there's no more war uh, against other countries. Um, and was that the purpose of the act of Algeciras when the Sultan put the Moors to be the police of the different states?
Yes,
Was that
yes,
the purpose of him trying to make sure that there wouldn't have these weapons of mass destruction, maybe?
yes, yes. And
So
yes,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
yes, that is correct. And if Moors have been conscious at the time and have uh, participated at that time in statehood and doing then what we're doing now, then it's a high probability that we wouldn't have these weapons of mass destruction, and we wouldn't have these warmongers so proliferant in the world.
Yeah, so you're saying that there probably wouldn't have been a World War II, a Korean War, a
Mhm.
World War One, um, and many other wars that have taken place since the Act of Algeciras was signed.
Yes,
Wow,
as
what a different
specifically,
world.
yes, especially the nuclear arsenals that people have.
Right.
That is, yes, we would definitely not have to deal with nuclear arsenals as weapons.
Okay. Thank you. Speaker, a core function of the legislature is oversight over the executive. Who is the head of the government of the empire, and how does the legislature hold that power accountable?
The head of government is the prime minister, DeAndre Drebe, and accountability is maintained through constitutional separation of powers, as well as the Constitution contains safeguards in place for officials who might want to test the waters of excessive power grabs. Also, the legislature exercises oversight through budgetary authority, legislative inquiry, confirmation procedures where applicable, and the power to amend or appeal statutory frameworks. Judicial review further reinforces constitutional compliance. These mechanisms ensure that no branch operates beyond its lawful authority.
Okay. So how does budgetary authority keeps the executive in line?
Well, you have to have, like, say for instance, relating to war, right? War departments and the militaries have to have a budget for war. They have to be able to cost-wise sustain the military arsenals, the manpower, etc., for war. So if the budget authority does not allow for that, they'd have to scale back their war. Or also, it could, when you talk about lobbying too, the budgetary authority could be involved in that as well. So the budgetary authority is when you say budgetary authority, you're talking about an umbrella,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're not talking about a specific entity or committee. You're talking umbrella of anything that would need a budget, which would need funding, for that budget. So
Okay.
the legislator has oversight over that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Speaker. Now there's going to come a time when African Americans, Moorish Americans, Black Moors, and so on and so forth are going to want to know how they can become a Moroccan. So, what's the process that exists for someone to claim their legal status within the empire?
The legal status is determined by establishing administrative procedures consistent with constitutional requirements. The Wazir Council was established for the heads of the internal Moroccan states to come together at a round table and discuss pertinent issues, drafting bills and creating the trusteeship system to assist in walking candidates for statehood through the process to meet certain criteria, such as to have like-minded people to collectively consent to following the regulations required to complete the statehood process. They would have to abide by the laws of Morocco and to be motivated to work for the changes they themselves desire for them and their people. If someone does not have others to start an internal Moroccan state, they can contact the WRC, and the WRC will let them know if other people are wanting also to create a state in that specific territory. Interested persons can go to eomgov.com, which is the Empire website, or they can email the WRC at wazirregionalcouncil.com. Individuals who seek recognition, they must meet documented criteria, demonstrate lawful adherence to Moroccan legal obligations, and complete formal review processes, including a background check, ensuring clarity, accountability, and equal application of the law.
Okay. So you have a process now for people who want to become nationals to go through and reclaim their nationality.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Um, in that process, what is necessary, I guess, I mean, you have to what, look Moroccan or
Yes, you have to be a Moroccan, prima facie. If the
okay.
prima facie is in question, then there will be other processes necessary to verify whether that person is indeed a Moroccan or not.
Okay, so you're saying that African Americans, Black people, um, will qualify
Yes,
for Moroccans because they fit the phenotype
that's correct.
of a Moroccan.
Yes.
Okay. And therefore, does that mean that they just need to make an application to a internal state that is now um, recognized by the Sultan?
If they know someone in a internal Moroccan state and are in that territory, um, even though they're still under the jurisdiction of the United States, they can contact the wazir of that internal state, who can forward that information, because they would do some kind of preliminary screening of that individual before contacting the WRC. And they would contact the WRC, and WRC would take it from there and look and see if there are other people who are also on the list in that territory. And if not, they would just take down their information and hold it for future reference when more people in that territory are interested in creating an internal Moroccan state.
So that's people who are not in a state that's considered an internal state of the empire. Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
that is correct. Who are not yet, have not gone back home to Morocco, and has not renounced their American allegiance and pledged their allegiance to the Empire of Morocco.
Okay. So you gave earlier the impact study session and the uh, Empire website as places to get more information.
Mhm.
And so people who are interested in becoming Moroccan nationals should study those videos and those other resources in order to gain knowledge of this Moroccan movement. Would you agree?
Absolutely pertinent to that. Absolutely. Not do I only agree, I highly tell you that's what you have to do. That's what you need to do.
Okay.
Because it's funny how when we speak to, like, say, an individual relating to statehood or what have you, it never ceases to amaze me that they'll ask you a series of, like I say, 10 questions, and based off of those questions, on the answers they get, on whether they will even consider participating or not. You cannot have a series of questions like that and think you're going to get the whole answer. You're going to get all of the information you need to make a good decision, because you're only getting a very minute part of the information with those answers to those questions. You would be better served by watching those impact study sessions, as we all have done
Mhm.
and continue to do, because there's so much pertinent information in there that you're not getting when you get the answers to those questions that you ask somebody.
Okay. Okay. So
Because
there is um, a studies process or course that an individual will have to take when they decide they want to become a Moroccan national. Is that similar to the process that one does when they want to become a U.S. Citizen? They have to take a class on, say, English and the structure of government in the United States. Is that something similar that's required
well,
in the
I,
empire?
I can't speak to that in the regard that I've never had to do that. I don't know anyone who ever had to do that. So, and I've never really studied their process of becoming a United States citizen, on what their regulations and specifics are. Um, but it's imperative that I mean, it's just like anything that you want to know or anything you want to be. If you want to change something about yourself, like say if you want to go from one profession to another profession, you don't just jump into that profession without knowing anything about that profession. You have
Right.
to study. If you want to be a dentist, you got to go to school for dentistry. If you want to be an auto mechanic, you have to go to school and learn how to be an auto mechanic, doctor, whatever. You have to get that information that is pertinent and relative to that subject or topic that you're interested in. It's the same thing with political reform with us in statehood. You have to get the information that's necessary for you to comprehend and be able to carry it out. And that's what the study sessions give you. They don't just you don't just sit and watch a video. You're downloading information, but it's very important that while you're downloading that information, that you take the time to download those documents that are referenced and not only download them, but read them. When you read them for yourself, you are digesting them. It's almost like they're becoming part of you. So that is very, very, very important.
Okay. Is it possible to get a copy of the Empire of Morocco's Constitution, and where would I get that?
You would get that at the eomgov.com website.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, any particular classes on the website or study material other than the Constitution? How about treaties? Can I get treaties there so I
Yes,
can study?
yes, yes. We also have, for people who are interested in becoming a Moroccan national, we have this uh, program or this application where they have to sign up on the Moodle app and take these courses. And when they listen to these videos one at a time, at the end of each video, there are questions that they have to answer. It's like a test. And each video has 10 questions. And you have to get 7 to pass. And you get 3 chances to pass. And based on the video, you answer those questions to see if you comprehend and are retaining the information that the video is putting out. But again, it's absolutely important that you download that information and read it for yourself. I know when I looked at those videos and when I downloaded the Treaty of France versus the United States, I read that 3 times before I could fully comprehend it.
Mm.
And it became part of me. You know, you begin to live the words to a degree.
Oh, okay. Okay, so great. There's a resources for those who may be interested in becoming a Moroccan national and coming back home, as you said earlier, uh, as it mentioned in I guess, the Treaty of Madrid. Okay, so that's great to know that there are resources, and the Empire of Morocco has the impact study sessions and the website. Okay. Speaker, I want to thank you for your clarity and constitutional insight. Today's discussion has reinforced an essential truth. Sovereignty is sustained through structure, law, and disciplined institutions. The legislative branch is not symbolic. It is an engine through which constitutional order becomes operational governance. As the Prime Minister and Wazir of Elodium Moorish Palladium of New Mecca, I remain committed to ensuring that the internal state upholds the same constitutional integrity and legislative discipline discussed here today. To those watching, study the Constitution, understand the treaties, and participate lawfully. Structure builds stability. Thank you for joining us.